Hey guys, I've been in love with Jelly Roll's new Beautifully Broken album, and I need to share my thoughts on it.
I know I can't be the only one.
Like a lot of Jelly Roll's music, the album has a heavy mental health tone to it, and he's very candid about his own struggles and addictions. And I think the success of his music says a lot about the progress we've made in talking about mental illness as a society. Morgan Wade touched on a lot of the same themes in her music.
I wrote a song about being suicidal, put it on.
In her song The Night, she claimed there's some unwritten rule that successful artists can't talk about mental health in country music, but the success of artists like Morgan Wade and Jelly Roll shows there is a real audience who wants to hear the good, bad, and ugly of these artists' lives. And that opens a lot more room for listeners to feel seen and connect with the song, the artist, and the communities around them. So I think Jelly Roll deserves a lot of credit for being in many ways the face of this shift and bridging genres to spread this positive message to so many people. But gawking aside, let's get into the actual album. I'm not going to give my thoughts on every song because the album is intentionally a little bit repetitive, but I highly recommend listening through the album yourself, because if the songs I've singled out don't hit home for you, there's bound to be others that will.
And I've been losing myself, I've been losing my mind.
Winning Streak is one of my favorite songs on the album, and I would argue it's by far the best lyric. It's a perfect start to the album because it's about Jelly Roll's mixed feelings about going to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. For whatever reason, as a society, we tend to associate a sense of shame with reaching out for help, but in reality, admitting you have a problem that's beyond your own control to fix is often the hardest part. So the beauty of organizations like AA and support groups is that you're not alone. It's really easy to feel isolated inside your own thoughts, but in reality, so many people are going through the exact same thing as you. And surrounding yourself with those people doesn't mean you won't still have hard days, but when they do arrive, you'll be able to help each other through it.
I am not okay.
I Am Not Okay was the main single released ahead of the album because it's sort of a high-level summary of the album as a whole. It's much less specific and personal, but it's still really powerful, and an important message about how the first and hardest step is accepting that there's a problem in the first place. I also particularly like the line, "If I say I'm fine, just know I learned to hide it well."
So if I say I'm fine, just know I love.
The idea of masking is a big concept with neurodivergent people like myself, but masking mental health can be even more recursive, as turning those thoughts inwards only serves to perpetuate them.
You ain't nothing but a liar.
Liar was the other big single release ahead of the album, and I have a lot of the same thoughts as I Am Not Okay. It's pretty broad relative to the rest of the album, but that makes it much easier to relate to. It's all about the lies we tell ourselves, and learning not to trust the voice of doubt in our heads. And whether or not you relate to the specific lies he tells himself, I think the overall message is portrayed really well.
I hate the man I used to be, but he'll always be.
Unpretty is about Jelly Roll's relationship with the person he used to be. Even though he hates that part of himself, it'll always be a part of who he is today. Because a big part of accepting the person you are today is taking ownership of the mistakes you made in the past. Not just accepting the scars and broken pieces, but embracing the way they've made you into a new person. I mentioned this with Daniel Bradbury's That's Why You Love Me, but healing isn't about forgetting or hiding your flaws and insecurities. It's about learning to love those parts of yourself too, and surrounding yourself with people who'll do the same.
I don't pray like I used to.
Obviously, Lonely Road is a much more popular Jelly Roll Machine Gun Kelly collaboration, but Time of Day has really grown on me. The refrain kind of says it all. He's given up on trying to save himself because he doesn't think he's worth the time of day. The song is slower paced and it stands out a bit sonically, but in an album so full of heavy topics, it stands out as a surprisingly dark lyric. There are a lot of dark topics in the album, but Jelly Roll is really good at discussing mental illness in a way that gives hope to those going through it. A lot of the album is looking back on the hard times, or at least sees the light at the end of the tunnel, but Time of Day is still deep in the depression and self-loathing, which I think is really valuable for the themes of the album. Making it clear that even on the path of recovery, there'll be days that don't feel like there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and that's okay.
Hear me out. You don't know.
Hear Me Out is a call to pause and listen before judging others based on their struggles. Especially in the information age, where we're fed headlines of hundreds of different stories at a time, it can be really hard not to jump to conclusions. But we've all been on the other end of it too, wishing people would take a minute just to get to know who you really are. Sometimes explaining yourself just feels like a shout in the void where no one cares to listen. So taking a moment just to pay attention can have a massive impact for people far beyond what you'll actually see.
If you've seen all the tears I cried, you would know.
I've long thought of the happiness we experience as very relative to our normal state, so someone who's had a tough life will draw more happiness from an average day than someone whose life is usually happier than average. Obviously, this is a gross oversimplification, but the same idea is behind Smile so much. In the scheme of things, the album is actually pretty optimistic and hopeful, despite the dark themes he's writing about. Because even though he still has bad days, he remembers how it used to be, and even a bad day now would have been great back then. Of course, as he said early in the album, there will always be struggles, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I really admire his ability to step back and keep everything in perspective. Because in reality, there are a lot of things in life to be grateful for, even on the worst days.
'Cause that's my cross to carry, my scars to heal.
My Cross is easily my favorite song from the album. It's about Jelly Roll looking forward towards fatherhood and hoping he doesn't pass down all the challenges he's faced in life. It's well documented that having parents who struggle with addiction can predispose their children to the same fate. And once you've gone through it, you know the pain it causes, and the last thing you want to do is pass that on to the ones you love. To me, it's so powerful because it is a valid concern. I'm not a father, but even in friendships and relationships, the fear of the ones you love being hurt by your mistakes is terrifying.
Knowing your mind scares the hell out of me.
I think the wordplay in Winning Streak is a bit stronger, but I love the lyricism of this song too. There's a lot of clever religious symbolism, and the entire thing is beautifully written. In particular, I love the line, "I hope the apple falls far from the tree," because it conveys so much emotion and meaning in so few words.
Don't judge me if I get too high.
I'm not going to make an extra video for the deluxe songs because they're all collaborations and most of them are just okay, but I can't not talk about Past Yesterday. If you haven't listened to the song, I'm serious, pause the video now and go listen to it. I'll put the link somewhere on the screen, but it's just incredibly moving and powerful. Jelly's verses tell a story of a girl who was raped as a child and she's kept it as a secret, eating away at her. But Skylar Grey sings the chorus, which is from the girl's perspective, as she's older and begging not to be judged for her coping mechanisms. Skylar's performance is stunning and almost eerie, as you can really hear the brokenness, the resolution, and the desperation as she sings the same chorus over and over. But as she does, Jelly Roll continues to fill in her story, and her verse takes on a new meaning each time. And by the end, the somber tone gives way to an almost angrily defiant one, maintaining that there is hope and her past won't always define her. It's such a great, powerful song that's so symbolic of the record as a whole. I haven't talked much about the individual vocal performances on the record, but Past Yesterday is by far my favorite, with Jelly Roll and Skylar playing so well off each other. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you take the time to listen to this album. I know I said that for every song I recommend, but this song genuinely has something for everyone. If you've enjoyed the video, please leave a like and let me know what songs you resonate with in the comments below. Thanks again for watching and have a great day.